Hey, everybody. Dolores Jones here, your comeback coach. Listen, I want to tell you something really quickly. Actually, I have a question. When you look at the state of life or your life or the world and you see the changes that need to happen, my question to you, if it's not you, then who? You have the power to do what is necessary to change your life. If not now, when? NOW, no opportunity wasted. See, right now you have the opportunity to take whatever it is that you have and decide to do something better with it. Now, I'm going to tell you something and you're going to say, shut up. There is a woman who literally sells her farts in a jar. You heard me. She farts in a jar and people buy it. Now, you mean to tell me if somebody can pass gas and sell it, are you trying to tell me you don't have something to offer? Of course you have something to offer. Something that you've gone through, you've been through, you're in. Whatever it is, you can make it happen. Make it happen. The chair that you're sitting in, it was an idea. Yes? Now listen, let me tell you something. The reason I am here is because I made a commitment to myself and I have accountability partners. An accountability partner is a person that says, look, this is what you said you want. You need to get on your butt and you need to do it. Get off your butt and do it. Done is better than perfect. I used to be a horrible procrastinator. A horrible procrastinator. You know what procrastination is? It's fear. It's fear. You put it off because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Now, what would happen if you changed it and you began to say, everything I touch is going to be profitable? What if you grabbed hold of an affirmation and said, I am healthy, happy, wealthy, and worthy? What would happen? You would start to see something different. Why? There's something in your brain called the RAS, Reticular Activating System. Your brain waits to be programmed. Your brain wants to know what's important to you. Not what's urgent, but what's important. And sometimes people say, I don't know what I want. You need to take the time to figure that thing out. Why? Because if you're not clear, who else is? If you don't decide to make a change in your life, let me tell you something. Prince Charming is not coming, honey. Pretty Woman, that was a movie. I get it. I wanted to be up there on the balcony. Come and get me, baby. It wasn't happening. I had to take time to do something meaningful. I had to decide I want results, not reasons. Reasons become roadblocks. The difference between where you are today and where you will be tomorrow are the decisions that you make. Like you made a decision to stay in bed, didn't you? Now you can make a decision to get up. Now, Dolores, you don't understand, honey. Yes, I do understand. I had depression so overbearing that I could not get out of the bed. Do you hear me? I had to start with small things. Small things. I said to myself, put one foot on the floor, put the other foot on the floor, and stand up. Sometimes you have to go back to the basics. And then I start making agreements with myself. I said, you're going to get out of the bed and you're going to at least be in the shower by 10 o'clock. Baby steps. Baby steps matter. Okay? But you're the one that has to do it. From there, I would say you're going to put one foot on the floor. You're going to be in the shower by 10 o'clock and then you're going to get dressed. Accomplishment, because there was a time I was sleeping 16 hours out of a whole day. Do you hear me? It was so bad. Depression had me so bound, y'all, that I was showing up at a television station as the comeback coach, 5 minutes on television, and I would go back and get in bed for hours. It got so bad that my son, who was away at school, he was in high school, he came home one day and I couldn't get out of bed before he got home. And so my secret was out. He said, Mom, you're depressed. And then he said this, Mom, I'm afraid that I'm going to come home and you're going to be dead. My 17-year-old son told me that. I said to Ricky, God's not going to let that happen. And when he walked out of the room, I looked and I said, God, you're not going to let that happen, are you? I don't want my son to experience what I experienced. I buried my mother when I was 5, Lord. I've been talking to other people and encouraging them. I need to be here for my son. And it got worse. You know, you hear people say, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't even want you to speak those words out. I want you to say, God knows my end from my beginning. And he knew that within 2014 and 2016, I was going to make 7 trips to the hospital. He knew that I was going to be in my car one day going down the highway with my son, and the enemy was going to get inside of here, the battlefield of the mind. And he said, you know what? You're washed up. You're divorced. Look at you. You're living on income-based housing. You got food stamps. You got college degrees that you're not using. He said, why don't you just open the door right now and fall out on the highway? I said 3 words. I said, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And then I took my finger and I pressed it down. I held it down on the lock. My son was driving. He said, Mom, are you okay? Now, mentally, I wasn't okay. But I said to him spiritually, I said, yeah, I'm okay. That was attempt number 1. Attempt number 2, my son left to go be with his father. I was left alone. Isolation is not the thing you want to do when you're not feeling good. If you notice, everything I'm talking about, I had to do something, and I had to do it in that moment. I couldn't afford to keep putting it off because my life was at stake. This is a fight for your life, baby. Second time, my son goes to be with his father. All of a sudden, it felt like the walls were closing in on me. I took an overdose of lorazepam. Anybody that knows what that is, it's like Valium, right? The problem I was having was every time I got up, it was like a battle. Like bombs going off in my head. So when I went back to sleep, it was a reminder that I was going to have to wake back up and keep fighting. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. That's what my flesh said. My spirit said, she tripping. 6 words, you shall live and not die. I took the overdose anyway. Got in my car. I drove from I-35 and 18th Street to I-35 and 87th Street. You do the math. 65 miles per hour. I don't remember getting there. In fact, I woke up in the hospital with a nurse looking over me. They thought I wanted to commit suicide. I just wanted the pain to stop. You understand that? Sometimes you just want the pain to stop. That's all. But God gave me another chance. I said, okay, God, we can't keep going through this. I can't keep coming back and forth to this hospital. These walls are getting closer and closer. God, what are you going to do? And then one day, it felt like somebody was stabbing me in the back of my head. The pain was excruciating. My son opens the door. He's back from school. He sees me in the rocking chair. He's like, Mom, you're crying. I'm like, yes, Ricky, I'm crying. You got to take me to the hospital, but don't take me back to the same place. See, sometimes you keep going to the same place expecting deliverance, and you need to switch it up. That's part of the problem. Some of us are so stuck in tradition that we will die in tradition. My mama went to this church. My daddy went to this church. My great-great-great-great-great-grandma went to this church. But if it's not the place for you, hello? So here we are. We go to KU Medical Center off of 7th Street in Kansas City, Kansas. I go in. I'm bawling. I'm like unconsolable. I'm crying. My 17-year-old son has me. And we stopped to get all of the vitals. And there was this little nurse. And she was a believer. And she started to console me. Oh, baby, it's okay. And I'm thinking, you don't understand. There's a bomb going off in my head and I can't stop crying. And she was so gentle. And then she took me into the room to wait for the doctor. The doctor comes in. I say to the doctor, these are my words. If you don't give me something right now, I'm going to blow my brains out. Just like that. She grabs my file. She goes down the list. Miss Jones, we've given you 11 different medications and they're not working. Ma'am, if you don't give me something, I'm going to blow my brains out. I'm going back and forth with the doctor who has the PhD. My 17-year-old son, who had been reading the book, Purpose-Driven Life, interrupts the doctor and says, is the nurse still here? The doctor says yes. He said, would you go and get the nurse? The nurse comes back. The lady is probably 5'2", full of power. He looks at the nurse. He says, would you please pray for me and my mom? The doctor has to step back, and Dr. Jesus, God, the ultimate way maker, the ultimate healer, the mind regulator, the heart fixer. Come on, somebody. Ooh, I felt my help coming on. Stepped in the room with the nurse. The nurse began to plead the blood of Jesus over me. She said, Father God, in the name of Jesus, this is your daughter. You have put her together. And she began to bind up everything imaginable from the pain in my brain. And then when she finished, she looked at my baby and she said, take your mama home. She's going to be okay. I left without any medication, but the woman of God had prayed over me. My baby, 17 years old, had to put me in the bed, take my shoes off, and cover me, and then kiss me on my forehead. I woke up the next day, and I can't make this up. The pain was gone. It was as if it was never there. I thank God for perseverance. See, right now you might be at the brink of trying to just give up, but I need you to hold on just a little while longer. Just hold on just a little while longer. Perhaps this video is the thing that you need that's going to catapult you, that's going to push you into the direction that you're really supposed to go. I woke up, I got dressed. I was like, oh my God. I stopped working at McDonald's. Did I tell you I have 3 master's degrees? I have 3 degrees, an associate's, a bachelor's in journalism, and a master's degree. But I was so sick, I got a job at McDonald's. Honey, sometimes you can't do what you want to do. You have to do what you need to do. But as soon as I got my mind back, I started making 60 grand as a director of social services. Listen, you ain't going out like that. You are not going out like that. Did you hear what I said? Now, it's you. You have to make that decision. And as soon as God gave me that window of opportunity and the woman of God prayed and I began to sense things, I started coming off all kind of medication. I said, God, this ain't of you. But I did stay on medication. Now listen, I'm not one of those people that don't think you need anything. I need Celexa 40 grams in the morning and at night, Wellbutrin 150 in a day, 150 at night, XL, and now I have traces of the ADHD, so I take Adderall. But let me tell you something. Medication alone isn't going to save your life. Medication may help you get up, but it's what's in your mind that matters. If it's not you, then who? I got my butt up. I contacted a friend of mine. She's a personal trainer. I said, Sonia, I need to drop some weight. Because in my studies, I knew that exercise is key to your mental health. So I started working out with Sonia. I moved everything. I moved everything that would try to get in the way of it. See, when you want it bad enough and you want it now, then everything else doesn't matter. You just let go of all the other stuff. You're trying to be everything to everybody, and that is not your job. I'm going to say it again. You're trying to be everything to everybody, and it is not your job. And can I drop this on you? Somebody said in their book, what you think about me is none of my business. Sometimes we are so driven and connected to dead things because we're worrying about what other people are thinking. But baby, when you die and you know we're going somewhere, they're not climbing up in that casket. They're either going to talk about you and say what a wonderful person you are, or some people may even come and spit on your grave. But that is not what you are about. You are about living an abundant life. If not you, who? Mama can't do it. Grandma's not coming. Honey, next thing you know, my body wasn't perfect, but all of a sudden I started to see the change in 2015. And my family started to see the change. And one day I called my sister and I said, I feel good. And she said, okay, but we didn't want to get our hopes up high because every time I said that, I would hit down bottom. But I just kept going. I said, okay, God, what am I going to do? I had to go to a pharmacist because they had gave me something called olanzapine. Not for me. You got to go online and read this stuff. This is your body. You have to advocate for yourself. Don't just let somebody have a PhD and that's it. No, you're intelligent. If it's not working, you need to tell them it's not working. And if they can't help you, you need to go to somebody else. I had to do that. Those pounds started dropping off. Next thing you know, I'm feeling good. And I remember this prayer. I said, God, would you please give me my mind back? Because sometimes we're almost there and then we're trying to get there. And I just kept going with my routine, giving God praise, giving God worship. I was a praise and worship leader, but when I was sick, I couldn't even lead worship, but I could worship at home. Let me tell you something. Sometimes you don't need a stage. You don't need a pulpit. You better go right before God and let the Spirit do what it does. Whew. Let me take a moment. I'm Dolores Jones, by the way, known as the Comeback Coach. I help you bounce back better, not bitter, through life experiences and bad decisions. It's also the title of my first book called Stop the Dumb Stuff, A Woman's Guide for Being Responsible for the Decisions We Make and the Relationships that we are in. The only way that you're going to get the breakthrough that you're needing is you have to participate. You got to say to yourself, I did that. I made that decision. See, when you're playing the blame game, you're never going to win. This is why. When you're waiting for somebody else to change and you know they're not going to change, your life is on hold. So they're controlling you. But if you decide to change your mind, change your attitude, change your address, and you better change your clothes. Come on, somebody. Don't go around looking a hot mess. When I was homeless at 17 years old and I was catching a metro bus to a junior college, a community college called Donnelly College in Kansas City, Kansas, baby, I was dressed to the T's. Not that I had everything, but I put it together the best way I could. And here's the thing. I couldn't even take a water and bath every day because we didn't have water and we didn't have lights. But I had a made up mind. Honey, I would get on that bus. I got down to that college. The janitor let me in before the teachers got there. I went into the basement restroom. I locked the door. I began to say my prayer. I began to sing my song. I took out my bar of soap, my towel, my toothpaste, my toothbrush, and I got myself ready. And I went to class every single day. Because I wanted something. I wanted something different. Poverty was not going to be my final destiny. I stayed at that school. I went into the library until the school closed. I emerged the first semester with a 4.0 GPA, which is high as you can go, became a presidential scholar, and maintained that for the 2 years that I was there. Come on and tell me something. You know what I realized? Just because you're struggling don't mean you're stupid. When I was a commencement speaker at that graduation, and I shared that I had been living in an abandoned home, my teachers had no idea. That's what's up right there. See, you don't look like what you've been through. And when you're walking, when you're walking in purpose, people are drawn to stuff like that. They're not. Listen, it's overcrowded at the bottom. Everybody got a story. Everybody got a reason. But what do you really want? And let me tell you this. I heard somebody say it like this. They said, what you want shows up in your conversation. But what you expect shows up in your behavior. You can say what you want, but if your behavior isn't in alignment with what you say you want, you're not going anywhere. I said, I want to be like Oprah. That's why I was going to that community college and majoring in communication. And then I got my internship at a TV station. And they said, well, what did Oprah do? These women who took interest in me. I said, I don't know. They said, you need to find out. They said, she's a journalist. So I went and applied to a journalism school. I had never left home, ever. But see, when you want something different, you hear people say, jump and grow your wings on the way down. That's what they're talking about. You may not see the way, but in your heart of hearts, you know that there is a way that's going to be made. And here's the thing. As you have these victories, you need to put them somewhere where you can remember. You must remember the victories. I look at God's track record in my life. I'm like, God, wait a minute. I'm 51. I turned 51 November 5th of 2021. My mom died when she was 21. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? My dream was, Lord, just let me live to be 21. I don't know what kind of pain my mama was in. She was so young. She was 15 when she had me. And then I have 2 younger brothers. And she was dead by 21. And here she was in college. And sometimes you are positioned to go in a certain direction and something is vying for your attention. That's why you have to fight like your life depends upon it. And I'm not here to say I'm mad at my mother. She fought as hard as she could. That's why you should never judge anybody at the condition or place that they're at, because your condition is in transition. A lot of people say, Lord, I want a revelation. Revelation is revealing something to you that you either have to change, you have to implement, or you need to let it go. When I got my degree in journalism from the #1 journalism school at the time in Columbia, Missouri, honey, I went to these people. I said, y'all need a motivational speaker at graduation. They said, Dolores Jones, we've never had one. I said, now you do. Because see, you can go through something. But I want you to understand this. What you're going through sometimes isn't even for you. You need to prove to somebody else that there is a better way. See, there's a song that says, I need you, you need me. We're all a part of, where I need you to survive. That's why you have to do what it is you need to do. Somebody needs to see you shining. You're worried about everybody else who's throwing shade. Baby, I ain't worried about shade. You're supposed to shine. I'm walking down the halls one day at the junior college. Now, this lady don't know anything about me. She don't know that I caught this bus. She don't know that I'm going back home and living with candles. And I'm walking with my head held high. And she stops me and she says, look at you walking. And I finished her sentence. I said, like I am somebody? Because I am somebody. And still I rise, because you can write me down in history. Come through, Maya. With your bitter, twisted lies, you can trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I dance like I got oil wells pumping in my living room. Come on, you better come through. See? You got to come through. It's you. And now is the time. No opportunity wasted. Let me tell you something. It got so good. And then it got so challenging. But in the midst of it, in the midst of the storm, there is a blessing in the storm. Come through, Kirk Franklin. And after I was divorced, I think the year was 2007, or something of that sort. I got the call from the Oprah Winfrey Show, honey. Do you hear me talking to you? Dolores Jones, yes. We heard about you in a book called Come On People, on the path from victim to victor. And you're in a chapter called From Poverty to Prosperity. Just a little piece of my story. They flew me to Chicago. But listen to this, beautiful Bonnet babies. Listen, I almost didn't go. Why? Ask me why. Why? Because I was in the middle of a situation with my marriage. I had an estranged husband. And we had drama. And people don't care. When your opportunity comes, it's not going to be picture perfect. And I was like, what? He's going to? Foolishness. My friend Jatina said, if you don't get your on that plane right now. See, it's a distraction. I waited 18 years to meet Oprah. And this little situation with this man had me so messed up that I wasn't going to get on the plane. Baby, I got on the plane. I carried myself like I had good sense. And when Oprah Winfrey herself invited me down to join her center stage on her stage with her people, honey, who was not, I was tore up, just tore up. I was tore up. I was tore up. And see, sometimes you just need a little taste of it. Sometimes you want it all, but you're not ready for it all. My case in point, I left the Oprah Winfrey Show. She was so loving. She was so kind. I showed her my vision board with her and I on it. And there was a book deal waiting for me. And I was still too distracted. And I came back to Kansas and got into a fight with the man who said he would love me. Yes. One minute he said, I love you. The next minute, his fist was in my mouth. Do you hear me talking to you? Come on, somebody. He was dressed up. I was dressed up. That don't mean anything. And so I had to have this come to Jesus. Okay, Dolores Jones, what's really going on? As I was laying there on the hospital bed and they were putting stitches in my lip. And my colleague, Dr. Paulette Hubbard, came to see me. See, even when you're struggling, you still want to surround yourself with what they call cookie people. They're going to come and they're going to treat you nicely, but they're going to get in your stuff. And as I'm laying there on the bed, just stretched back, Paulette said, Dee, do you love yourself? I said, yes. She says, no, you don't. You can't possibly love yourself to let somebody disfigure you, put their fist in your mouth. You just got back from the Oprah Winfrey Show. What is going on? Either you're in or you're out. Either you want it or you don't. Yeah, you're a college professor. You got all this going for you, but you're not being truthful from the inside out. Honey, listen, the fight was on. The fight was on. I had turned my intelligence off. And sometimes you can feel so defeated and beat down that you don't think that you got it in you. But that's why you surround yourself with people who believe in you. And when they have faith, sometimes it's their faith that propels you to come forward. And I had to look that devil in the eye. And I said, now listen, Dolores Jones, are you that desperate for love And you know this ain't even love. And if you're truthful, you weren't supposed to do it anyway. You got 3 messages, but I don't want to be wrong. Somebody said, I don't want to be embarrassed. I said, do you want to be in bondage? It's too much. A divorce is too much when it comes to your life? No. No. And no. I had to make the decision. The decision was, I choose me. I had moved away from my house. The neighbors saw me move back into my house. I had to choose me. I couldn't worry about people saying, dang, y'all just got married and it ain't even been a year. Because you can cover up stuff, but eventually it's going to come out. It's like, you put that with the chicken. Let's say some chicken is in your refrigerator and it has an expiration date. And you keep saying, I'm going to put it in the freezer. And then it starts to stink, right? It starts stinking. And you go, I'm just going to ignore it. Am I the only one? Okay. And so then all of a sudden, your doorbell rings and somebody comes over. And I said, hey, can I have a glass of water? And now your face is like this. Because when you open that door, that stinking chicken is going to hit them people in the face. That's how life is. They said, what you're not willing to reveal, you cannot heal. And I had to stop and say, why do you keep doing this? And the truth of the matter was, when I was 10 years old, I was molested by my babysitter. And he was a man. And he wasn't really the smart guy. I mean, you could pay him with a 6-pack of beer and some cigarettes, Miles, Cools, or whatever. But I saw him being mistreated. So when he started to touch me inappropriately, all I could think about is what they would do to him. And you already know kids, they're loyal. And so I never told anybody. I didn't even talk about it until I was 35 years old. And listen, I'm 51. But what I realized is in that, once I told you I love you, I was going to be faithful. That was what I picked up. I had to say no. When somebody hurts you, you don't have to love them. You have to let them go. And each person you were with, your 2 husbands, because there was people that was in your life, you covered up their stuff because you said you loved them. Now, it's you, Dolores. And once I owned it, I was like, oh my God. You got to go for the root, baby. Nobody's going to come and dig up your root. Okay? Either you want it or you don't. And I hear you. But Dolores, it's so hard. I know it's hard. But do it hard. How bad do you want it? And I'm going to tell you, there are going to be days it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to tell you it's possible. But you have to be intentional. You got to have a plan. You got to have a purpose. You got to have a vision. What's a vision? What do you want to see? And I decided, I see myself being with Oprah again in her garden for Super Soul Sunday, talking about my book, Making It Without the Help You Need. You got what it takes. I can taste it. And then I see myself on a stage with the world's leading motivational speaker, Mr. Les Brown. I see it. I see it because that's what's important. I see it. And it's in my imagination and I can taste it. I can touch it and it goes beyond my senses. And so once I have it fixed in my mind and I put it on paper, now my reticular activating system in my mind goes, da, 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 da. That's an opportunity. Pay attention to that. And I was on Facebook or Clubhouse. And Les Brown said he was doing the Les Brown offering the Les Brown Hungry for Greatness Speakers Academy. Okay? For $297 a month. Now, anybody who knows anything knows that that's like free. I said, I don't know what has to be done, but I'm going to be in the building on the Zoom. And at the time, my dollars wasn't adding up. So I made an appeal to the people who knew what I wanted to do. And they just sent it to my Cash App, and I paid I paid the first payment. And you know what happened today? I got off a Zoom call this morning with the one and only Les Brown. Not only was I on there, he was coaching me. He was taking all of the pits of my story and he was forming them and formulating them. And I have my recorder going. Listen, when you're in the company of greatness, they're not just talking. Get your recorder. Don't talk about, I can't remember what he said. You need to remember what they said. You remember everything else. You remember when that person told you wasn't no good. Come on, somebody. Now, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be real. Les Brown, this morning on Zoom, broke it down and recorded an endorsement for me, Dolores Jones. Some of you don't know me yet. Listen. You have to do something, and you have to do it now. You have to do something, and you have to do it now. Even if you're afraid, you got to do it afraid. Sometimes you just got to go, and you ain't got no shoes on. I'm just going. Where you going? I'm going. When I divorced my son's father, they was like, I said, baby, keep the house. Just keep it all. I'm going to go on down the street with my life. Okay? You got a date with destiny, but destiny, decisions, every decision is going to take you towards your destiny or somewhere else. Now, what happens, Dolores, during those times where I'm not sure and there's this gap? It's called grace, baby. That's what it is. It's called grace. God's grace is sufficient. I don't care what anybody else believes. It's your personal relationship. Grace. And maybe you've lost so much. I've lost so much. But what I learned in the midst of it is I learned what I can live without, which was a whole lot of stuff. Sometimes we're killing ourselves to keep stuff that we never needed. You're trying to bling bling and all this other stuff, where happiness is an inside out job. The in-between, yes, it's called grace. Your in the meantime experience. In the meantime, everything isn't 100%, but in the meantime, this is what I'm going to do. In my in-between season, I got a job at a radio station. I was working 40 hours at another job as a social worker, taking my lunch break and going to National Public Radio, doing a magazine show. In the meantime, oh, that takes too long. It'll take 5 years. Well, in 5 years, you'll have it or you won't. How about that one? Now, I know it's tight, but it's right. Because sometimes when we're in the mess, we're in it. It's like, I don't want to hear another thing. But this is the time you really need to hear it. You need people that make you uncomfortable, not to destroy you, but so that you are rebuilt to last. And once you get it, nobody can take it away from you. Because it's in you. Now, you can choose not to use it. You can choose to give it away. But I don't know about you. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's experience. But at this stage of my life, I don't. They said, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I'm going to get what I'm supposed to have. It's mine. It's always been mine. But the devil's job was to make me forget who I am. It happens to you. And you know you don't belong. You're just trying to hide out. You playing hide and seek with your purpose. I'm I'm going to hide over here. I was hiding as a social worker. I was hiding as a bookseller. And every place I went, God busted me out. I'm there. Hi, welcome to Barnes & Nobles. Have yourself a Merry Christmas. The lady takes her little package and she comes back and she looks at me and she says, God said you're supposed to be on television. Baby, I was making $150 a week and happy about it. It was crazy. I was settling for $150 a week. And God was like, I got to go get her. Why don't you go down to Barnes & Noble and buy this book? And when you see her, I want you to say something to her. And then my coworkers bought me a book by Brian Pitts, who's also a fantastic reporter. I was like, okay, do you think I listen? Nope. Because let's be honest, sometimes it's very difficult to undo 13 years of garbage. But at least if you start now and you listen to other people, you can shorten your learning curve. I'm not just a product of my mother, Marianne Jones, or my grandmother, Dolores Barnett, who was an educator, or my great-grandmother, Beatrice Caldwell, who was a prayer warrior. I'm also, I got a little Iyanla Vanzant in there. I got a little Maya Angelou. I got some Oprah Winfrey up in there. Listen, okay? Some T.D. Jakes, some Tyler Perry, some Denzel Washington, Sister Jackson, Sister Deborah, the prayer warrior at the church. Everywhere you go, somebody says something. And you put yourself in that place. Listen. You will never be able to control who's attracted to you. But as one person said, you can decide what you will entertain. And that goes for conversations. How are you spending your time? Who are you spending your time with? People say, what's wrong with her? No, somebody said, who's the matter with her? Because people can speak something over you that would take you almost 40 years to get out of. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Speak life to yourself. Even when you don't feel it, it's not about your feelings, it's your faith. He said, Peter, I have prayed for you that your faith fail you not. Not your finances, not your friends, and not your family. And that's the problem. When we don't know what we should know when we need to know it, but now that you know it, you're held responsible for it. You can't say you didn't know. You can't say you didn't know. In closing, I'm reminded of a story. And the person was really upset. They were asking God questions like, God, where were you? I mean, why would you do that? Why don't you just say something? What happened? What do you do when God says no? What do you do when God says not yet? What do you do when God says nothing? So the person is really upset, just upset. Lord, I don't even think I'm going to serve you anymore. How could you do this? Finally, they got quiet. And these were the words. The teacher never talks during the test. As a professor of social work, I spend days and weeks and hours teaching the students something. And when it's time for the test, I am believing that they took everything and they studied it. And they internalized it because there were no trick questions. They just weren't familiar with the material. I want you to put that in a spiritual place. God, why you ain't saying nothing? My word is right there. Did you go to Bible study? Did you take some time to read, to study thyself, to study and show yourself approved? A workman needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of God. Did you do that? But did you do that? Did you fast when I asked you to fast? Well, God doesn't have trick questions. You got to open the book. You got to be in a position to learn and grow. And remember, if I never see you again, I want you to understand this. You got good sense. My great grandmother would say that. She said, Dee Dee, you got good sense. You got the sense that God gave you. And you are able and capable to develop, to shift it, to shape it, and retain information. Listen, I'm a note taker. One of my friends said, note takers are money makers. All I know is I know the word. And I've known it since I was 13 years old. And it has not failed me yet. And it will never. God says, I look over my word to perform it. Where's my word at? I got to show up over there. You have to know what you need to know when you need to know it, and you need to know it to pieces. The teacher's not talking when the test is going. So remember that and start thinking about, well, what was it I was supposed to know? And here's the beautiful thing. It's an open book test. Ah! It's an open book test. If not you, who? And if not now, when? Be encouraged today. Go and be great. Give it all you've got. And once you've given all you got, and all you got is what you got to give, then you have given all you got. Come on. And most importantly, give thanks. Gratitude is the number one thing any person that is successful will tell you. Gratitude. God, I just thank you for another day. I thank you for the blood running in my veins. I'm not saying anything about a car. The devil don't care about your car. Lord, I thank you for peace of mind. I thank you for regulating my mind. I remember, Lord, when they said that you're a mind regulator. I thank you for regulating my mind, Lord. I thank you that you're a very present help in the time of trouble. Thank you. That no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Come on. This isn't about how much word you know. It's about, do you know the word you need to know? This ain't about you going and, oh, well, Sister So-and-so can quote a scripture. People can quote stuff and not live a lick of nothing. Don't just be a hearer, be a doer. Give thanks. Give thanks. And then sit down sometimes, okay? Maybe God is trying to tell you something. Sit down. Pain is an indication that something is not working properly. Pain is an indication that something is not working properly. Sit down. Inhale, exhale. Take out a piece of paper. And just write what you're grateful for. Just start right there. Just write what you're grateful for. I ain't got nothing to be grateful for. Baby, the fact that you're still breathing and living in the midst of a pandemic, oh, you got something to be grateful for. Just write it down. And continue to write it and see how it begins to shift your mindset. And then celebrate it. Just celebrate one win. Man, I woke up this morning and I got up and I took my bath. Lord, I want to thank you. I was burning my candles. Lord, I thank you that I had enough water. I thank you that I can recognize when my mood wants to change. And I can thank you that I know what to do when it starts to do that. And Lord, I thank you for the library because that's where I am right now. Lord, I thank you for the library that I can go into a study room and have peace and do whatever I need to do. Lord, I thank you. And that's all I got to say about that. Is give thanks and watch God work. So, it is you. It's possible, Les Brown says. It's necessary. And the time is now. I look forward to seeing you again. Be blessed on today. Bye-bye.